Hello there, so just a quick one on can you fail your test for hitting the curb? It's a common question asked in driving lessons and also online, so I thought I'd answer it for you. So the short answer is yes you can, and in some instances no you won't. And a lot of this boils down to examiner discretion and also how badly did you hit the curb. So I'll give you a few examples. If you're driving along at 60 miles an hour and you go up the curb and back down, then I would say it's 99.9% chance of you failing. Although I have seen once in driving tests where a learner did do that and they passed. And I'll come to that at the very end. So yeah, assume that you failed if you've gone up and down the curb or hit the curb quite aggressively at high speeds. Now, if you hit the curb, say on a manoeuvre, like the parallel park, and you've just nudged it, so you haven't gone up it, but you've just nudged it, touched it, you felt it, but you haven't continued to go up the curb, then in some instances, I've seen the examiners not fail the pupil, and they'd perhaps just give you a driving fault for that rather than a serious. If you're driving along and the examiner says to you pull up on the left at a safe, convenient, legal place, and you pull up and as you come into a stop you just touch the curb very lightly or you just scrape the curb a little bit, but again you don't go up the curb. Again, I've seen many pupils pass, I've seen a few fail. So in answer to the question, you should fail the test if you go up the curb. However, what I normally say is examiners do have an element of discretion depending on the incident that's happened. And the other thing I always also say is if you're on your driving test and you do make a fault and in your mind you think it's a serious or dangerous fault, whatever you do, don't go into some crazy, I'm going to drive like a I don't care mode anymore. Give it your best shot till the end of the test. You never know. As I say, I've seen one guy go up the curb and back down at 60 miles an hour and still pass. And I can't remember offhand, it was quite a few years ago, but it was only a couple of faults that he received at the end. So that's my best advice. If something does happen, like you bump the curb and you think, oh no, I failed, try to put it to the back of your head, sort it out if it needs sorting out, be it a manoeuvre, and continue to give the rest of the test your best efforts until the end. Now, just a few bits on how to avoid hitting the curb. So there's a few things you can do, and one is using a driving and focal point, which often you can use at the front of your car. It's usually near the windscreen wipers. Depending on your height and your seat position, your focal point at the front of the car will vary slightly, so you will need to consult your instructor, but that might be something useful that you could use to help you to not bump the curb. The other one is as you're stopping by the curb or you're manoeuvring, you can just glance in your left door mirror, or if you're pulling up on the right, you can just glance in your right door mirror. But just remember, the door mirror is going to only tell you what's behind you, beside you and behind you, not what's in front of you. So it's just an indication. If you follow it too much and you try and get a little bit closer, it's the front of the wheel that's going to bump the curb there. So it's just a quick glance. And if you see you're like half a foot to a foot away from the curb, then you know you don't need to get any closer. And if you see that you're a little bit further away than that, then yes, using that door mirror, you may want to get a little bit closer to the curb, but at that point I would use your focal point at the front of the car. Other things, if you're quite a short person, you might find just jacking up your seat as high as you can will help you see the curb better as well. That's why many short people, or often females, prefer driving in higher vehicles like Land Rovers because their visibility of the road is better. So if you are quite short or you just like to improve your view, if you're sitting under the steering wheel like this, that's not going to help you. Bump your seat up and all of a sudden you can see more over the steering wheel, you can see the curb better. And lastly, try not to stop. If the examiner asks you to pull up on the left at a safe, legal and convenient place, try not to stop on gradual bends. They can only be mild sometimes, and you can pull up on like a very mild bend. You certainly won't want to pull up on a bend where you can't see round the corner. But the dangers of pulling up on a very gradual, subtle bend is that focal point that you're using at the front of the car or your wing mirror isn't going to be so effective. So if it's possible and you really are worried about bumping the curb, just try and find a straight line. And obviously, if there isn't one and it is a, one of those sort of like windy sort of country roads, then obviously you're going to have to put your mind to it and try not to bump that curb. I hope those tips and advice has helped you.